Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, United Arab Emirates imposes fresh travel conditions on Nigerians, bans transit visa. Federal government begins reconstruction of Eastern Rail Line Corridor, NRC. Trump says 5 African nations unlikely to face tariffs, expects to release rate for Brazil. And PSG crush Real Madrid 4-0 to reach Club World Cup final. Details shortly.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Nigerian successful applicants for United States non-immigrant visitation will be granted a maximum of 3-month single-entry visas. This was announced by the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, which said it was a decision of the U.S. State Department based on reciprocity. It added that those with subsistent visas would have the opportunity of their continuous use. The embassy observed that the United States values its long-standing relationship with Nigeria and remains committed to expanding a partnership based on mutual respect, shared security priorities, and economic opportunity, keeping both countries safer and stronger. It commended the ongoing efforts by the Nigerian immigration and security agencies to meet standards of international best practices and assured that the U.S. will continue to engage with Nigerian government officials to address the remaining challenges. Before now, a regular Nigerian visitor to the United States was granted up to a 5-year visa depending on eligibility. In a related development, United Arab Emirates UAE has introduced more stringent entry restrictions for Nigerians, including a ban on transit visa applications and new limitations on tourist visas. Latest directives communicated to Nigerian travel agents, which is expected to significantly reduce travel from Nigeria to Dubai, one of the UAE's top destinations for business and leisure, has sparked concern within the travel and tourism sector. In a major policy shift, the authorities now restrict Nigerians between the ages of 18 and 45 from obtaining tourist visas unless they are accompanied, and comes nearly a year after the UAE lifted a 2-year visa ban on Nigerians. Statement advises Nigerians to take note of the new restrictions before sending the applications with other existing documents such as hotel reservation. The Nigerian Railway Corporation says the federal government has begun reconstruction and rehabilitation of the Eastern Railway Corridor with the commencement of work on the narrow gauge tracks from Port Harcourt, Rivers State to Aba in Abia State. The district manager for the Eastern District, Enugu, Victor Adamu, who disclosed this to newsmen in Enugu on Wednesday, said the narrow gauge, which starts from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri in Borno State, covers Enugu, Abia, Ebonyi, Rivers, and part of Egbede in Benue State. Adamu disclosed that a segment of the contract was handed over to NRC on November 28, 2024, with coaches now running from Port Harcourt to Aba and back to Port Harcourt 5 days in a week, but acknowledged that there was a suspension of work from Aba down to Umaya and to Enugu. Adamu, however, said that the federal government is doing everything possible to ensure that the construction and rehabilitation on the remaining part of the contract commences soon. Primary school teachers in the FCT have returned to work after a 4-month strike. The decision followed a 16 billion naira intervention by FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, facilitating the payment of a new minimum wage for June and 5 months of salary arrears, covering 60% of 9 months outstanding arrears. Signature TV News correspondent Josephine Beatrice monitored the resumption of classes and now reports. The presidency has issued a stern warning to criminal elements attempting to exploit the federal government's national school feeding program for fraudulent purposes. In a statement on Wednesday, the Office of a Senior Special Assistant to the President on School Feeding declared that impersonation, forgery, and extortion under the guise of official government engagement will be met with the full force of the law. It stated that government will not tolerate any form of criminal exploitation of the national initiative. Statement said the misuse of government identity to deceive and defraud contractors is a direct attack on the integrity of the state, which will be treated accordingly. According to the statement, investigations are ongoing and individuals involved in a criminal conspiracy will be identified, prosecuted, and held accountable without exception. The warning followed the uncovering of a fraudulent network using forged letterheads of the presidency to extort funds from unsuspecting contractors under the pretense of awarding feeding contracts for public primary school pupils. The African Democratic Congress was officially unveiled in Benue State on Wednesday. Members of a new coalition party led by a one-time governor of the state, Senator Gabriel Suswan, held their inaugural meeting at the old secretariat of the People's Democratic Party. Joining the former governor at the unveiling were mostly his loyalists from the opposition PDP, and a few members of the Labour Party were lost in the 2023 general elections. Among the dignitaries were a one-time member of the House of Representatives and a governorship candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, Hemen Hembe, a former Commissioner of Finance under Samuel Otom, Davis Shalifu, a former member of the House of Representatives, Tegno Segba, and a former state chairman of the PDP, John Mbede. Others were former members of the House of Representatives, Samson Okwu and Hassan Saleh, Chile Ibawa, former permanent secretary, Tiblumon Nyise, Abedje Egwa, Chris Adaba Abba, and many others. Former Vice Chairman of All Progressive Congress, Malam Saliu Lukman, said whoever will fly the ticket of the African Democratic Congress ADC coalition in the 2027 election must earn it by winning at the primary. This comes as a former APC chieftain noted that the party would avoid mistakes made in the past by both former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, among others, willing to contest the ticket of the party. Lukman appealed to all supporters of the various presidential aspirants to join hands with the coalition to rescue Nigeria from the hands of President Bola Tinubu. The presidential candidate of the African Action Congress AAC in the 2023 general elections, Omoyele Sowore, has again attacked members of the opposition coalition. Since the coalition adopted the African Democratic Congress ADC as its platform, a new political movement has been receiving knocks from Sowore. It described the coalition as populated by individuals whose track records made it impossible for him to align with them politically. The rights activists also allege that many figures in the coalition have betrayed Nigerians, calling them people who have done what is regarded as evil and who lacked conscience, character, and pedigree. The publisher of Sahara Reporters emphasized that his position was not based on mere opinions, but on documented evidence of the conduct and lifestyle of those involved. He argued that while there were individuals in Nigeria's political landscape who genuinely wanted to save the country, others in both the ruling party and the opposition were simply preparing to exploit Nigerians further. National Security Advisor, NSA, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, has taken a swipe at people who he said underrate President Bola Tinubu, warning that such people do so at their own peril. Ribadu, who spoke on Wednesday in Abuja at the National Cybersecurity Conference 2025 with the theme Building a Resilient Digital Future, criticized critics of the Tinubu administration, insisted that Nigeria is safer and better under Tinubu. NSA called on telecom companies and foreign investors to invest in the country, adding that Nigeria is the future of Africa. Commenting on the National Cyber Security Conference, Ribadu said building a resilient digital future was a call to action by all stakeholders. He explained that public institutions, banks, schools, markets, among others, are targets of cyber attacks, adding that resilience is the bedrock of national security and economic stability. Ribadu assured that decisive steps have been taken to strengthen cybersecurity following the operationalization of a national cybercrime center. Up ahead, Nigeria's economy improving under President Tinubu FG. Relocate now, Nasarawa government warns riverine communities. Details in a moment.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The federal government has declared that Nigeria's economy is showing signs of steady recovery under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, attributing the positive momentum to wide-ranging reforms spearheaded by the administration. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris stated this on Wednesday in Abuja, while receiving members and newly elected executives of the Nigeria Guild of Editors during a courtesy visit to his office. In a statement signed by its Special Assistant in Media, Idris stated that although Nigeria's economy was not yet in El Dorado, no one could say that there was no progress, adding that international rating agencies were beginning to take note of Nigeria's economic direction. According to the minister, landmark policy reforms such as the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of foreign exchange rates are already yielding positive impacts on the economy. Pointed out that policies, though tough, are part of the administration's strategy to stabilize and grow the economy in the long term. Idris also highlighted the Students' Loan Scheme as one of the administration's major social investment initiatives, saying the program is currently benefiting around 300,000 Nigerian students. On the security front, Idris said the government is recording sustained successes in tackling violent criminality and restoring order in troubled areas. He called on the media to support the armed forces in their efforts, urging journalists not to amplify the voices of criminal elements at the expense of national morale. The Senate on Wednesday mandated its joint committees on capital market, banking, insurance, and other financial institutions, anti-corruption and financial crimes, and ICT and cybersecurity to conduct an investigative public hearing in all geopolitical zones of the country on the operations of Ponzi schemes. This followed the consideration of a motion titled Investigative Hearing into the Operations of Ponzi Schemes in Nigeria, particular reference to the recent crypto bullion exchange CBEX incident sponsored by Senators Adetokunbo Abiru and Osita Isunanaso during plenary. Presenting the motion, Abiru raised alarm at increasing sophistication of Ponzi scheme operators and the devastating consequences of their actions, and the need for urgent public education to prevent further exploitation of unsuspecting citizens. He added that the growing sophistication of such fraudulent platforms, combined with high youth unemployment, widespread poverty, low levels of financial literacy, and a lack of access to formal investment opportunities, makes the Nigerian population increasingly vulnerable to such schemes. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has stated that lawmakers were not in the Senate to make money, but to make sacrifices for future generations. Akpabio made this statement on Wednesday during debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to amend the Electricity Act 2023. Reports that the bill would address emerging issues in the Nigerian electric power sector, enhance policy and regulatory coordination, strengthen sectoral financing, protect critical electricity infrastructure, foster industrial relations in the sector, clarify transitional arrangements, redefine host community engagement by licensees operating in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, and for related matters 2025. The bill was sponsored by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Power, Senator Einaya Abaribe. Senate President explained that without electricity, there will be no way for industrial growth in the country, adding that everyone was looking forward to a total overhaul of the electricity sector. The people of Jabi Dakibiyu community in the Federal Capital Territory are appealing for urgent intervention from the government in addressing the health needs of the area. The people made a call when some healthcare providers visited the area for health outreach. Correspondent Nasiru Usman completes the report.
The Jabi Dakibiyu community is a suburb in the Federal Capital Territory. It is an urban slum in Jabi, which is located within the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC, one of the 6 area councils in the Federal Capital Territory. Unlike many other rural communities in the country, it is lacking several basic amenities, with health care as their #1 priority. The plight of the community became manifest during a recent medical outreach in the area. The village head of Dakibiyu, Lamishi, used the occasion to cry out for urgent help. Lamishi lamented that villagers, including pregnant women, die on a daily basis as a result of lack of medical facilities in the community.
We share our problem for federal government to bring a good hospital for us for here. There's nobody attend us. Before somebody reach last camp, some that we take off on the road. Or some will go to this private hospital. After that, some people that are gone. There's nothing we can say. We try our best. The federal government to help us, nothing.
He urged the government to construct health centers and other social amenities in the area for the well-being of the people.
We have many problems in this village. In electricity, what we are using here, we are the one who is buying transformer. The water, what we are using in Dakibiyu here, is individual will provide the water in the village, and community will just come and if they want to use the water, they will buy it. Our problem also with federal health care, what will not happen here. We are begging federal government to help us clean our tears, to bring something for us.
The people expressed joy at the temporary relief brought to them through the free medical outreach.
We are very happy this morning as you see hospital come to help us to test, to know about our health. We're really happy, we really appreciate. Really, we have problem in this community. We need government to help us for healthcare. We don't have any healthcare near here. Unless we trek, like pregnant people, they will trek, enter motor, transport, go to Gwarimpa Hospital. Stress is too much to us.
The place is cool and calm. I have not had any other person that is paying for anything. It's free of charge and people are happy about it. We don't have hospital here. We don't have primary school. We don't have pipe bomb water. We don't have good road that's leading to access to the community. As far as Dakibiyu is concerned, there is not any tangible government facility that's here in Dakibiyu here.
I've gotten my own malaria drugs. No, it's for free. It's for free.
The healthcare providers also spoke on the motivation behind the program.
If you come to this community, you notice that there's no health facility in this community, and the environment also, it's not very friendly. So today we are here to carry out a medical mission for the residents of this community, run certain tests, and also make sure that they're in good health and condition. And we're not just carrying out a medical mission here, we are also advocating to the federal government of Nigeria and all the other agencies to please intervene, that this community needs a proper medical health center that they can test its residents.
This project is done because after we've come into this community, we've noticed that this community is laden with not just health challenges, but also environmental challenges. No drainage system, no waste disposal system in place. So that means the community is prone to outbreaks of infection like cholera, outbreaks of disease, cholera infections, etc. You can name them.
The community is hoping that beyond the response from these volunteers, that there will be a more lasting solution from the Federal Capital Territory Administration or the federal government, and that it will come sooner than later. In Abuja, I am Nasiru Usman for Signature TV.
Nasarawa State Government has issued a stern warning to residents of riverine communities to relocate from flood-prone areas to avoid loss of lives and means of livelihoods in event of flooding. Director General, Nasarawa State Emergency Management Agency, NASEMA, Benjamin Akwash, issued a warning on Wednesday in Lafia. Akwash said the warning became necessary following the latest flash flood alert issued by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, which is expected to happen in 20 states, including Nasarawa. NIMET warning affected Sokoto, Nasarawa, Lagos, Kaduna, Zamfara, Yobe, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba, Niger, Benue, Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Edo, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Cross River. Akwash urged residents to prioritize their safety above the long-held belief in ancestral homes and move to high ground to safeguard their life and property. Inasima Boss further stated that the agency would soon procure speedboats and canoes along with other safety kits to help in facilitating the evacuation of people from flood risk areas to safer ground in the event of flooding. Akwash, while warning residents to desist from dumping refuse in drainage and building on waterways, urged them to take precautions seriously to mitigate the impact of flooding on their lives. The Adamawa State Command of the Nigeria Police has confirmed that 33 huts were burnt after a communal clash in Lamudi local government area of the state, where the Chobo and Bachama people have been engaged in a brawl over long-disputed land. A statement by the police public relations officer, Suleiman Nguroje, on Wednesday said that all was now calm in the area except for the scars of destruction. Nguroje stated that the crisis was elevated to a large-scale destruction that prompted heavy deployment of police personnel to restore order. He said that to strengthen security and prevent a further breakdown of law and order, more mobile police force personnel from Operation Farauta and counter-terrorism units have been deployed to the area. He added that investigations remained on course to identify the perpetrators of the crisis. The Federal High Court in Ibadan has ordered the remand of one Usman Adamu, standing trial over alleged terrorism and kidnapping. Adamu pleaded not guilty to the 2-count charge of terrorism and kidnapping preferred against him by the Department of State Services. Justice Nkoye Maha ordered the remand of Adamu but directed the authorities at Agodi Correctional Facility to allow the defendant to be treated at the prison's clinic. She said that if the prison's clinic is unable to treat him, Adamu should be taken to the University College Hospital UCH as a government patient. A judge subsequently adjourned the case till July 25 for hearing. Earlier, Defense Counsel Bukola Motosho had informed the court that his client's health had significantly deteriorated while in the custody of the Department of State Services, DSS. A national agency for the prohibition of trafficking in persons, Katsina State Command, has arrested 3 suspected members of an interstate human trafficking syndicate. NAPTIP's Chief Press Officer Vincent Adekoye disclosed this in a statement he signed on Wednesday. The statement was titled NAPTIP's Raids Popular Hotel in Katsina Arrests 3 suspected members of interstate human trafficking syndicates and rescues 3 victims. Adekoye said the syndicate specializes in recruitment, harboring, and trafficking of young girls from other parts of the country to the northern region for sexual exploitation. The manager of the hotel and 2 other workers were also arrested. According to a preliminary investigation, the suspects were believed to be major suppliers of victims to brothels and other notorious centers, including some neighboring countries. Bello also directed the operatives to beam searchlights on the activities of some hotels, drinking joints and motor parks in all the state capitals to curtail the activities of some criminal elements who operate as members of human trafficking gangs in the country. The youth wing of Ohanaeze Ndigbo's social cultural organization is held to unveiling of the Enugu Air by Governor Peter Mbah's administration, stating that it would unlock more economic opportunities for the people of the Southeast. National President of Ohanaeze Ndigbo Youth Council Worldwide, Mazi Oku Nabuike, in a statement he made available to journalists, said the governor had taken innovation and governance to another level. Oku said it was testament to prudent management of the economy of Enugu State by the Mbah administration. Said a milestone achievement would open doors for more economic boom in the state. Still to come, Brazil seeks to expand trade with Indonesia in meat, aviation and defense sectors. One gold and 3 injured on third day of Spain's Bull Running Festival. These and more after the break.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday said African nations are going to lower their tariffs and that the United States treats Africa better than China does, adding that 5 African countries were unlikely to face U.S. tariffs. Trump's meeting with the leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania and Senegal at the White House added that they did not think those countries at the gathering were likely to see any U.S. tariffs.
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated over the years, and based on raw numbers. And we're going to have a couple of more coming out today. Brazil, as an example, has been not good to us, not good at all. We're going to be releasing a Brazil number, I think, later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I haven't thought of it, but I don't know. Let's say I like him, and him. No, I don't think so. Not too much. He's very good. These are friends of mine now. Well, we treat Africa great in many different ways, including with tariffs. But, parts of Africa charge us tremendous tariffs, as you know. And they're going to be dropping those tariffs. They've already informed me they're going to be dropping those tariffs. But we treat Africa far better than China or anybody else, anyplace else. And we really haven't had too many complaints because I'm keeping them at a very low number, very conservative, as you would say, number. And we haven't had, I'm sure they will be complaining at certain points, but we haven't had complaints. We've been treated very unfairly by both friend and foe.
President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Wednesday that Brazil aims to diversify its trade with Indonesia, including in areas such as civil aviation, defense products, and beef. Delivering a joint statement with Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, Lula also said that Brazil's presidency of Mercosur would resume negotiations for the signing of a trade agreement between the South American bloc and Indonesia.
In Ukraine, I think I agree with your concept and your thinking of continuing the role of the group of friends to try to push towards a tangible and real ceasefire as soon as possible. We will coordinate some of the initiatives that we must take on reforms on the international governance. We support your thinking that there must be reforms for the United Nations to increase the voice of other new big players on the global scene.
The two leaders also discussed preparations for COP30, which Brazil would host in November in the Amazonian city of Belém. They reaffirmed their commitment to proposing the establishment of a global fund to protect forests in less developed countries. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Wednesday, "Let's wait," when asked about the possible imposition of a 50% tariff on copper imports to the United States, announced the day before by our U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. Sheinbaum said Mexico could consider other export destinations outside the U.S. She noted that Mexican officials will be in Washington on Friday for previously planned talks on trade, security, and immigration.
The two main countries for copper exports are China. We export more to China than to the United States, but we do export to the United States. Much of it is scrap, which is later refined in the United States and which is required by the United States. We will make every effort on our side. The people of Mexico know that we are working on this. The situation Mexico is experiencing is not exclusive to Mexico, it is worldwide, due to a position that the United States government has taken toward other countries to close their economy through tariffs.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday it would soon announce a 50% tariff on copper imports, which make up nearly half of the metal consumed in the country, as part of his bid to build up domestic production. The tariffs are designed to spark a revival of the U.S. copper industry, but analysts warn that it will take years, if not decades, to gear up production. Mexico is the U.S. fifth largest supplier of refined copper. On the flip side, the United States represents a relatively small amount of Mexican copper exports, which go mainly to China. The United States imports about half of its annual needs for copper, which is used in construction, transportation, electronics, and many other industries. A volunteer fire brigade in Guatemala worked on a road in Zacatecas in the southwest of Central American country to recover the bodies of two people killed by a boulder after two quakes hit the region on Tuesday. Firefighters worked since Tuesday night to free the bodies that were trapped in a vehicle when the boulder broke off a mountain and fell on them. The victims, two men aged 53 and 20, were traveling on the road where the incident occurred.
We, the volunteer firefighters, with 2 rescue units, we are at kilometer 47 of the route from Palan to Santa Maria de Jesus. We had to enter through a detour because, as you can see, the road is completely blocked. There are 2 total blockages in this area.
On Tuesday afternoon, a 5.2 quake shook southern Guatemala, around 60 kilometers from the capital, Guatemala City, according to the nation's Seismological Institute, which then registered a wave of more aftershocks ranging from magnitudes of 3.9 to 5.6. People whose homes were struck by a wildfire in the outskirts of France's southern city of Marseille returned home on Wednesday to survey the damage to their neighborhoods. Officials said it was under control, but warned that it could flare up again. The wildfire, which started on Tuesday, has burned through at least 750 hectares on the northern outskirts of the city. Mediterranean countries are in a wildfire hotspot, scientists say, with blazes common in hot and dry weather that have become more destructive in recent years due to a fast-changing climate.
Well, as for the damages, I no longer have a terrace or a kitchen. My next-door neighbors no longer have a house. We are in a district which has been painted by Cezanne, by Braque, which was a marvel, and now as you see it currently, we're going to be living on the moon. We only have one planet. France lives as if we have 2.5, referring to consumption, even though we only have one. So we have to change our way of life, we have to change our software, way of thinking. We have to learn wisdom because we are currently scheduling our end. And there is everything else that we do not see here, the squirrels, all the animals that I saw every day, which are dead, and which will take decades to come back if they come back at all. This is also an ecocide.
I am both very sad, of course, but also disappointed. We can't get to this stage again. We know very, very well that the summers will get hotter and hotter. We live in a region where the Mistral, strong winds from north, has always been a part of life in Marseille, so we're not discovering things either. Today, we have to provide resources. Perhaps if the firefighters had more resources than they did when this fire started, perhaps we could have done things differently. Whatever the case, we can't find ourselves in this type of situation again.
Why doesn't Europe establish a shared force of trucks, firefighters, aircraft, Canadair planes based at an equal distance, to wildfire zones, in Sardinia, in Malta, and so that we can go and extinguish fires in Greece, Portugal, from the start? We should have done this in 2000, but people would say, yes, I understand, but... So, around 2 p.m., early afternoon, I came back and there was a huge amount of red and black smoke and it choked us a bit, but it was back there and then we noticed the damage, 2 cars burned, a little studio at the back there. And there we go, as I said, it was my mother and father's house, which they built with their own hands.
Satellite imagery from Wednesday revealed the aftermath of wildfires near Marseille, with large patches of land scorched and vegetation visibly blackened. The before and after photos highlight the extent of the devastation, as once green areas seen in a photo taken on March 27, 2025 now appear darkened due to the damage from the fire. A wildfire that reached the northwestern outskirts of France, second biggest city of Marseille, was under control on Wednesday, but not over, officials say, warning that it could flare up again. Officials told residents they were no longer in lockdown, though some who evacuated were likely to find their homes in ashes. 10 houses were completely destroyed and dozens damaged. They said though no fatalities were reported. Marseille firefighters chief Leonard Mathieu said around 700 crew, assisted by helicopters dropping water, were trying to control fires north of the city and prevent them from being rekindled. 3 people died in New Mexico, 2 of them young children, when floods swept through the village of Ruidoso in mountains around 135 miles southeast of Albuquerque, the state's largest city. The flooding was sparked by heavy rain that fell on a wildfire-damaged area, triggering a rapid runoff of water that saw the Rio Ruidoso River rise to a record 5 feet higher than its previous historical high, the village said in a statement. Scientists say climate change has made extreme flood events more frequent and damaging by creating warmer, wetter, and weather patterns. Paris Saint-Germain Spanish midfielder Fabian Ruiz scored twice in the first half display as the French champions demolished Real Madrid 4-0 on Wednesday to book their place in the Club World Cup final against Chelsea. 2 defensive errors handed PSG their held-up defender Raúl Asensio with a feint before finishing perfectly from a close. Novak Djokovic's pursuit of yet more career milestones continued unabated as he reached a record 14th Wimbledon semi-final and a showdown with world number 1 Jannik Sinner on Wednesday. 38-year-old Serb recovered from a set down to beat Flavio Cobolli 6-7, 6-2, 7-5, 6-4 and is now only 2 victories away from an unprecedented 25th Grand Slam title. Blocking his path next is a rather more formidable Italian in the form of Sinner, who eased any worries about an elbow injury to beat American powerhouse Ben Shelton 7-6, 6-4, 6-4. In the women's quarterfinals, Poland's clay court specialist Iga Świątek broke new ground by reaching her first Wimbledon semi-final, beating Ludmila Samsonova 6-2, 7-5. 8th seed will face Switzerland's unseeded Belinda Bencic, who edged out Russian teenager Mira Andreeva 7-6, 7-6 to also reach a first semi-final at the grass court slam. England's Lauren James scored twice, while Georgia's Tanway and Ella Tone also found the net to put the defending women's European champions back on track at Euro 2025 with an emphatic 4-0 victory over the Netherlands on Wednesday. 4 days after a lackluster 2-1 loss to France, a ruthless England came out firing on all cylinders in front of a festive crowd that included Britain's Prince William. England and the Netherlands both have 3 points from their opening 2 games in Group D, level with France, who can go 3 points clear at the summit if they beat Wales later on Wednesday. England played tournament debutants Wales in the final group game on Sunday, where the Netherlands play France.
Victory. And if you lose 4-0, of course, I'm very disappointed. And what's important is the way the game goes. So I think we were lucky with 1-0 at half time. We would have been lucky. And then we have to accept the goal in the dying seconds. That should not have happened. English, I'm saying clear? Yeah? Should not have happened. And then in the second half we look better. And then the first real attack, 3-0. Although we look better. Yeah, and those are killing moments just before halftime, 15 minutes after halftime. And a moment we thought we can do something. Yeah, that hurts and then the result is bad.
En graag, wie wilde eerst vragen stellen? 2 vragen per keer.
Ja, als ik van tevoren, als je me de vraag had gesteld, zullen we wedden dat je met 4-0 van Engeland gaat verliezen? Had ik wel gewed met je hoor. Had ik wel gedurfd. En het is sport. En zoals wij vandaag tegen een enorme zeepert aanlopen, kan dat Frankrijk ook gebeuren. En nogmaals, als we er niet in geloven, dan bel ik even dat we al naar huis zijn en dan zoeken ze het verder uit. Maar ik ga niet bellen.
Was scored and 3 others were injured on Wednesday, the third day of Pamplona's San Fermin Festival. Emergency services of Narava region said 6 bulls from the Alvaro Gomez ranch charged through Paloma's narrow streets in 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Footage showed a bull goring a man at the famous curve of Esposa Mina Street, and the man was seen being dragged from his t-shirt through several meters by a bull, but several runners fell down and bulls ran past them. Hundreds of runners dressed in traditional white outfits with red neckerchiefs sprinted ahead of a powerful animal along the 875-meter route. Thousands of tourists come from all over the world to run alongside locals over 7 days, making San Fermin the most famous of the festivals involving bulls that take place across Spain during the summer months. Every morning, runners sing a homily to beseech the protection of San Fermin right before the bull run. That's the news this hour. I am Barry Kumado. Thank you very much for watching.